good. Everyone is listening me.
Ma'am, you are audible, ma'am.
Dr. Sahu, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, I'm hearing you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for
It's
coming
my
coming
pleasure,
here.
ma'am.
Yeah,
It's my
thanks, sir.
pleasure.
So I take my pleasure, and I'm happy to introduce Dr. Dhananjay Sahu, who has done PhD and DLit in finance, and he's presently working as a professor in Faculty of Commerce in Banaras Hindu University, one of the oldest university and famous university of India. He is having an academic experience of around 24 years of teaching at both UG and PG level. His micro specialization is in the field of security market and specifically studying the market microstructure and the impact of different structural reform on stock market and allied issues. He has, to his credit, of publishing research paper in reputed journal in the field of finance, and he has written many papers and books in this area. My Our objective of inviting Dr. Dhananjay Sahu, that very rare faculty member who can teach social rate of return, or the very important part of social entrepreneurship is to know the impact assessment. So when you don't know how to assess the impact, when something is not measurable, you cannot measure and cannot claim the impact. So for claiming the impact, you should know how to assess the social impact. And that is the reason Dr. Sahu is here. He is a prominent personality to talk in this area. And as I told you yesterday, we are going deeper and deeper in this area. So now it is again a subject where you need to have more concentration to know this area. Thank you, Dr. Sahu, for joining us. And now over to you to start with.
Yeah,
I,
good morning, Dr. Sahu. Pranjal here. I'm the
right.
team from Atal FDP Western. I just want to ask you, do you have slideshow to present so that I can
Yes,
make
yes,
you?
yes, yes.
Yeah, I'll
I'm
make
just
you.
sharing.
Yeah, I'm making you co-host so that you can share it on the screen. Yeah, you can do it, sir, now.
Okay. Now it's visible. I've shared the slides.
Yes, yes, it is
Yes,
visible. It is
yes,
visible.
Right. Thank you. Now, first of all, I extend sincere thanks to Professor Nisa Pandey for giving me this opportunity and to share whatever I have as an academician in this context. Now, I extend a sincere and warm welcome to all the participants who are attending this FDP on one of the most growing area, particularly in Indian context. I hope all of you must be having those numerics to defend the rate of growth of social enterprises since 2006-7. It is growing in not in leaps and bounds. Rather, the growth is more or less in a geometric progression. That's why we are taking it up as an edge in the present day context. And I have been asked to talk on the methodological part of social enterprises. And I hope by now, during the last 2 days, almost all the participants have had sufficient understanding about social enterprise and social entrepreneurship. But when we are talking about the methodological dimensions of quantifying the return on the social enterprising activities, we are there to go in a different dimension, owing to the very, very basic reason. When we are talking in general parlance about economic enterprises or companies, we are only concerned about the financial returns. But when we are talking in the context of social enterprise, to me, social enterprise is a business venture which is offering products and services backed by blended objectives, right? Now, why do I say it is a blended objective? Because it is for the purpose of creating social return as well as financial return. Because when we are talking about the viability or the feasibility of a social enterprise, okay, we know all that social enterprises are set off with the very objective of a social cause, with the objective of carrying social ideologies on a philanthropic base. But at the same time, unless we ensure that we are financially viable, it is very difficult to grow by the passage of time. Because many times we are experiencing that social enterprises are established or are created, and after a span of 2 years or 3 years, they are finding it very difficult to continue with their objectives, to continue with their activities. Now, one such fundamental reason for the failure of social enterprises to continue to deliver the activities is the lack of funding, lack of finance. Now, from the point of view of financial dimensions, to make a social enterprise a sustainable one, we must go for a methodology which will accommodate both the dimensions, right? In that context, let me tell you people first why we need to adopt a different methodology when we are assessing the feasibility of social enterprise. Because almost all the methodologies which are used to assess the feasibility or viability of a capital enterprise is biased towards financial parameters. And it is based on the financial statements. But when we look at a social enterprise, we are facing a lot of problems. Even there is a fact that social enterprises are also preparing the financial statements. But because of the very nature the social enterprises are having, we are there to adopt a different methodology to assess the feasibility of social enterprise, which is owing to the very simple reason. Let me take one example. When you are getting the involvement of volunteers, when you are developing relationships with different stakeholders in the community, they are also interpreted as intangible capital from the point of view of a social enterprise. But as long as we are there in the financial domain, we are complying to the regulating framework of preparing books of accounts. We cannot show these things as assets. We all know that human capital, then relational capital, and these contributions of volunteers, they contribute a lot to the very existence and operation of social enterprises. But we are handicapped. We cannot show directly these things in the financial statement, that in the balance sheet. Similarly, when you are getting some government grants, when you are getting subsidies, clear? It is very difficult to show these things in the balance sheets as long as we are there in the financial domain. That's why we are finding it a critical and complex task when we are assessing the feasibility. That's why I'm getting into a methodology which was more or less different from that of the earlier methodologies. But prior to that, I hope all of have gone through these basic aspects of a social enterprise. Why I'm taking it again, because I'm going to discuss something which is more of a value-based measurement rather than a monetary dimension. That's why it is essential to revisit all these underlying premises. I hope these are clear to you. Now, I'm carrying you people to the further dimension that since the growth and development of social enterprise in the international arena, a lot of iterative approaches have been executed by the ardent researchers in this said field. And by now, a bunch of techniques are available which are accommodating the social, the economical, the environmental, as well as financial dimensions of an enterprise. But to be SROI, social return on investment, is one of the methodology or technique which is used most extensively because of its adaptability. I'm not saying that other methods are not equally good, like GRI is there, HIP is there, IRIS matrix is there, PRI is there. There are many techniques which are available, which are also taking into consideration all these dimensions, which are very essential to assess the feasibility of a social enterprise. But to me, social return on investment is one of the most widely and easily adopted technique to quantify or to assess the viability of social enterprises. There are certain edges, certain advantages of SROI, just we may take into consideration. It is one of the few standardized solutions available and mostly accepted approach in practice, because we are going with a value dimension, but we are using financial proxies. Because when we are talking about assessment of feasibility or viability of social enterprise, and we are absolutely getting dictated by this subjective assessment, we all know that when we are talking about value, it is a subjective dimension. It is a subjective assessment. Clear? So that's why a lot of prejudice, lot of hunches, lot of premeditated mindsets will come into action when you are completely dictated by the subjective assessment. That's why SROI is a blended technique which is based on value, but makes use of financial proxies in order to provide a quantitative platform for appraising the viability or the feasibility of social enterprise. That is making SROI such a popular technique to adopt at the end of all those entrepreneurs or all those investors, all those stakeholders who are having any direct or indirect bearing on this particular dimension. Right? Now, with this, I'm carrying you people to the SROI concept. As I said, SROI is a framework for measuring and accounting for broader concepts of value. It measures changes in ways that are relevant to the people. Now, just I am going with the slide. So, right. Now, when we are talking about measuring the social, environmental, and economical outcomes or impacts at the end of social enterprises by using SROI, we are indirectly talking about the change or the theory of change, because every activity which are getting executed within the domain of a social enterprise, it is backed by a social objective. Clear? And social objectives may be related to education, may be related to agriculture, may be related to sanitation, may be related to healthcare, whatever they may be. We are trying to necessitate a change among the targeted communities who are the variant stakeholders of a social enterprise. Now, through measuring the change and the impact, what the activities of social enterprises are going to have on the stakeholders, clear? We are blending the same with a monetary value, which I said is a financial proxy. That clear? It is not directly a monetary quantification. That's why it goes like this. SRI uses monetary values. However, SROI is about value. Money is simply a common unit and as such useful and accepted way of conveying value. Exactly. So that is why when we are talking about SROI, we are going with a blended version of considering value, and at the same time, we are trying to transform a value-based orientation into a monetary orientation. By using different financial proxies, I will let you know how we are going for those financial proxies. Now, before we get into the technicalities of SROI, uh, it is essential to know where we are there to start. Clear? There are two dimensions of SROI. One we say is the evaluative dimension, as Professor Nisa asked me to go engage a lecture on this. Mostly when we are talking about SROI, we are having a preconceived mind that we are going evaluative. Evaluative in the sense we are taking into consideration a social enterprise who have been conducting certain activities with a social cause. And we are there to study the feasibility, financial viability of the activities executed by a social enterprise. Clear? So that means we are into a post-mortem exercise. We are not prospective. We are not futuristic. So we have the data available, what a social enterprise has done, what was the input cost, what is the output, and what are the outcomes. So we are there to make an evaluation of the same. But the proponents of SROI who proposed way back and gets them customized and developed by the passage of time pertaining to different underlying premises. They are of the view that social SROI as a methodology would work much better if we start off with SROI. Instead of a post-mortem, we are there expected to go prospective. That makes a difference between the types of SROIs which are used in the international arena by now. One we say is the evaluative, as I said, it is a post-mortem one. The other one we say is the forecast SROI. And I'm going to stress on forecast SROI because, as I said, it is a serious concern for all the social enterprises, barring few exceptions, that they are having the crunch of availing of finance in a timely manner, as and when they are in need of the same. Now, when we are looking forward to potential investors, may they be individuals, may they be any foundation, may they be any governments, may they be quasi-investors, may they be any corporate players backed by corporate social objectives, clear, whoever they may be, when they are taking up the activities of extending finance in order to make a particular social enterprise practically viable to continue with the so-called activities what they are performing, we need to have a forecast SROI because we are there to take all those providers of finance into our confidence that look, we are doing this, we are going to make this much of changes among or within the society, and that is going to add value up to this, and all these things we are there to convince them. Then only they will come forward and they will come for the rescue, and they will contribute in either way, either in kind or in cash, or in terms of facilitating a relationship, or in terms of providing a volunteer contribution, whatever they may be, in whatever form they are there to contribute. But we are there to take them into our confidence. We are there to make them feel that yes, we are doing something. So for that, a forecast SROI is going to have a better penetration so far as social enterprises are concerned. So that's why my focus would be on focus, that is a prospective dimension. Going to a very simple reason that when we are talking about an evaluative SROI, the most critical threat we are getting is the qualitative attributes of the data. Because we all know when we are going for a postmortem orientation, if the data is not robust, on which we are going to execute a study, then a very popular saying is that garbage in would end up in a state of garbage out. So it is very difficult to uh, get access to data backed by all the qualitative attributes. So that's why if you are going with a focus, the ball is in our court. We are predicting, we are creating the data, and we are, as we all know that social enterprises are functional on a democratic setup. We are facilitating the involvement of all the stakeholders as far as possible, and we are taking their suggestions, we are making use of their comments, we are making use of their views, clear what they think, what they expect, what they aspire for from the point of view of social enterprise, clear. So that things will automatically get inculcated into a forecast SROI. So that is the background. Now when we are talking about SROI, we must take into consideration certain fundamental principles, clear, to make it a successful assessment methodology or assessment technique. Because mostly what happens when you are into feasibility study, we are getting skeptical. We are getting confined to ourselves or our people. It should not be there. As far as possible, we are there to ensure the involvement of stakeholders. Now, who are the stakeholders? That is a very complicated question. So, for example, suppose you are providing a financial education program to the migrant workers, say for example, and you are uplifting their level of financial understanding. Now, they are migrant workers. Now, if you will end up with some sort of behavioral changes in their spending habits, directly the migrant workers are the stakeholders, but they are not the only stakeholders. Think of their families who are also staying with them, clear. They are also indirect stakeholders. Now, are you necessitating any change in the way they are taking off their spending activities, clear? Because we all know in a family the spending activities are taken up by all the members of the family, clear, backed by a different psychology, backed by different attitudes, backed by different behaviors, clear. Now we are there to identify that. I will let you people know through SROI how do we do that, clear. Then we are there to clearly understand the changes, because SROI is based on that fundamental premise of theory of change. Technically we call it the impact, clear, or the outcomes, whatever you may say. Now, what changes are there as a consequence to a social activity? That you must understand as clearly as possible in order to uh, facilitate the adoption or the application of SROI. Then value the things that matter, because there are certain changes which are getting noticed as a consequence to different social activities, but at the same time, there are certain collateral changes. Clear? Along with the change, what we are targeting for, there are some other things which are also changing. And those may not be that valuable, or sometimes it contradicts to our purpose. Like, say, for example, you are providing social activities of installing sanitation or say facilities at public places. So definitely, when you are providing that sanitation facility at public places, clear, you are contributing. You are providing a better environment to all those trespassers who are using who are there in that public place. But at the same time, through that sanitation, some other changes are occurring. Clear? So how are you going to tackle some other changes which are collateral to the main change? So whether it is valuable to you, to your objective, to your activity, to your targeted stakeholders or not, you are there to count that. So value the things that matter. Then only include what is material. Because as I said, there are many collateral things which comes along with the main change. Now, are you going to accommodate all those changes while you are making an evaluation or you are making an assessment of the success of a social enterprise? It is up to the evaluator. It is up to the person. Clear? Now, do not overclaim. In case of social activities, many a times we are ending up with circumstances or situations that we are doing some activities and we are overclaiming the consequences, the changes. Clear? Sometimes we are getting overboard with regard to the beneficial outcomes of a social activities. So that should not be there. That is a problem which is there in case of many of the case studies what I studied. Clear? Then try to be transparent as far as possible. And that is very critical, because many times we don't want to share all those things with the stakeholders backed by different objectives or backed by different ideologies. That should not be there. Then after disseminating all those things what you are doing with all the stakeholders directly or indirectly associated with the social enterprise, clear, you are there to verify the result. And verification part should not be done in a one-sided dimension. Verification should be done by having the involvement of all the parties, either directly or indirectly. These are some of the basic principles what we adopt in case of SROI, social return on investment, as an assessment methodology of social enterprises. Now let us get into the protocol or the process of SROI. First, we are there to establish the scope and identify key stakeholders. As I have been saying, there are many instances or situations where you are going with a scalable activity, but on the practical platform, it is getting squeezed. Sometimes we are going with some scope, but on a practical platform, it is getting further widened. So there is the possibility of either or. Either you are doing X, but on practical platform, you are doing X plus P, or you are thinking of doing X on a practical platform, you are ending up with X minus Q. So that is very pragmatic, and that is very well possible when you are transforming your thoughts into action. So you are there to identify and establish that scope clearly, clear, and you are there to identify the stakeholders. As I have been saying, there are many other parties who are also getting benefited, clear, and they are unintentional. You are not intending, clear. If you are interested to take those stakeholders into your assessment, you may go ahead, or you are there to restrict to the designated categories of stakeholders. Clear? Then mapping outcomes. Now, this is the process. I'd be discussing these things in a much broader dimension. The next slide. Now, establishing scope and identifying key stakeholders. Clear? First, it is important to draw the boundaries of the SROI analysis. That is, what the analysis will cover, who will be the stakeholders in the process, and how. Okay. Then there comes mapping of outcomes. Now, when we are talking about mapping outcomes, obviously, it is the stakeholders which we are there to take into consideration. Clear? Now, establishing scope and identifying stakeholders, then mapping outcomes, as you have been discussing. Clear? That is the protocol. I am taking off one by one all these steps in different stages. Clear? Now, to start with, it is required to answer these questions when you are establishing scope and identifying stakeholders. What are you going to measure? How will you measure? And why do we want to measure? That is a very typical question. Clear? Are you intending to measure the same backed by the objective of availing of funding facility? Are you intending to measure backed by the objective of appraising whether the activities have been delivered the way it is expected or not? Now, third thing, are we delivering those activities to the intended stakeholders whom we had thought of targeting? Clear? So these are the things we are there to take into consideration. Now, in addition to establishing scope of the analysis and ideas, we are there to take into consideration the stakeholders, clear, and try to involve them as far as possible. Now, establishment of scope leads to these different further dimensions. Because of paucity of time, I cannot get into all these sub aspects of scope establishment, because we are there to talk about the purpose, we are there to talk about the audience, we are there to talk about the background, we are there to talk about the resources. Then who will conduct the analysis? Can you do it internally? Just I have been saying about it before, that are you going to do it of your own internally, or you will seek the help of certain specialized agencies? Because nowadays there are specialized agencies who are asserting to this particular task of rendering services of different assessments, different feasibility study. So you may hire a third party as, or you may outsource this particular activity to be done for you by any other specialized agents. Or if you are self-sufficient, you can do it of yourself, but adopt a cautionary approach when you are doing it of your own, because there is every possibility that you may get biased, you may get carried away by your prejudice. Clear? So those who are handy financiers, who are extending substantial funding facilities to social enterprises, they are stressing upon the fact that the feasibility study of social enterprises must be done by a third party, not by the people of the same organization. So these are the requirements, because if the internal people are resorting to that particular activity of feasibility study, this is always subject to scanner. Clear? So far as the funders are concerned, so far as the finance providers are concerned. So that's why it is your choice how efficiently and meticulously you are going to do. Clear? And that is there in the scope. If you are outsourcing, the scope would be different. So these are the things you are there to take into consideration. Then identification of stakeholders. First, we are there to make a list. Clear? People or organization might be affected by the activities of the intervention. Why do we call it an intervention? Because social activities are backed by the objective of creating a change in the behavior, in the way we lead a life, or in the way we are thinking, in the way we are taking off a particular activity. Clear? Now, that change, as I said, at times may end off with a positivity or may end off with a state of negativity. And I had already told, it may be intentional, it may be unintentional. That when you are coming across a Sulabh Shauchalaya at a particular tourist spot, tourist destination where thousands of tourists are coming. Now, in that place, the tourists, those who are visitors, they are getting benefited, definitely. But the surrounding areas, they are ending up with some negative consequences as a consequence to the establishment of that particular facility. Clear? So that is not intentional. That is unintentional and negative. Clear? So that's why you are there to identify the stakeholders. You are not only taking into consideration the stakeholders who are getting benefited, because when we are talking about stakeholders, in general, we are taking it for granted that those who are the beneficiaries, those who are getting benefited as a consequence to a social activity. It is not. If you are only stressing upon the beneficiaries, it is half-hearted, it is halfway analysis, it is halfway feasibility study. You are not taking into consideration the feasibility on a holistic platform. As I said, there are certain negative consequences. Some social activities you are an enterprise is rendering, it is ending up with some positive outputs, but at the same time, it is also ending up with some negative outcomes. See? Now, you are there to take into consideration both. In case of group of stakeholders, groups should share common characteristics. Mostly what is happening when you're going for a feasibility study using SROI, we are grouping different beneficiaries or different people who are getting influenced by that particular social activity based on certain common characteristics. Clear? And then we are getting into the further dimensions. So far as collection of information, collection of facts with regard to the impact, facts with regard to the outcomes, we are there to make a group sort of orientation. Now, this is the most critical stage, map the outcomes. Here we build an impact map in which we try to define how the inputs have been used to deliver the activities measured as outputs. Clear? Now, essentially, when we are talking about feasibility of social enterprises, we are exactly establishing a causality among the inputs, outputs, and outcomes. Clear? Here we are differentiating between outputs and outcomes. Unlike that of companies or capital enterprises where you don't differentiate. Here we are required to differentiate between outputs and outcomes. You can understand the same with a very simple example. When we are talking about, say, for example, a financial awareness program launched by a social enterprise. Now, inputs have been used to accommodate the cost part of it. There are people, there are time, there are infrastructural facilities which are required as the fundamental inputs to facilitate a financial awareness program. Then the output itself is the program or the training. Now that is the output. You have imparted training to designated members. Now that is not outcome. Now if as a consequence to that training, some changes have been experienced or noticed among the participants, then only we say that there lies the outcomes. And that we are there to map, that we are there to quantify through SRY. It is, though it is a complicated task, but it is possible. It requires some meticulous approach, but it is possible, right? So that's why when we are talking about SRY, I've been telling you people before that indirectly we are talking about a causality relationship between inputs, outputs, and outcomes. And outcomes means whether change has been experienced or noticed among the participants. Definitely you are there to, as a research methodology, you are there to make use of a control group and a target group. Okay, now you are there to make a comparison with regard to changes after the training or after the execution of that particular social activity. So that is very critical to identify. Now, identify and value inputs. That is very simple. We all know that there are different sorts of inputs which have been used to render a particular social activity. I'm not going to deliberate on that because there are certain inputs which are very difficult to quantify in terms of money, or they are difficult to be expressed in monetary terms by like the contribution of volunteers. You are not paying anything to them. Now that is a very serious and substantial input in case of rendering different social activities to the designated communities. But so far as input cost is concerned, there are certain elements of inputs which are itself there in the monetary state. But there are certain inputs which are difficult to get expressed in monetary terms, as I said, clear? But you are there to make it out. And you are there to very careful with regard to double count of inputs. Like here in the slide, you may go to the literature, that like when we are availing of funds from different institutions or foundations to execute social activities, clear? Many a times, we are not using the whole of the fund to take off a particular social activity. That fund has been given by a foundation or by any entity to take off that particular activity. But many times the fund has not been fully utilized. But we are taking into consideration that as the input. So that is the problem of double count. So you are there to be careful to restrict the consequence of double count. So that is there in the literature on the slide, you can go through. Now, describing outcomes. When you are talking about description of outcomes, clear? As I said, I have already differentiated here. I have also mentioned we should be careful not to confuse outputs with outcome. The training program aims to get people into jobs. The training is the output, but getting the job is an outcome. So this is one more example you can understand. Identifying outcomes is not always immediately intuitive. So we are there to work with the theory of change to ensure that we are measuring that things Clear? Because when we are rendering a training program to uplift the employability skills for getting a job, it may be instantaneous, but mostly it is not instantaneous. It takes its own span of time. There is a time gestation. Clear? And it varies from one participant to the other participant. Clear? Because every individual who availed of that particular training program is or are backed by different internal strengths, clear? Different approaches. So that may take a span of time. So it may not be instantaneous. So that's why you are there to be careful to measure the outcomes. Normally, what happens कि आपने कोई training program दिया और when we are talking about the outcomes, आपको लगा कि ट्रेनिंग प्रोग्राम के बाद लोगों में तो कोई चेंजेस नहीं आ रहा है, तो मतलब ट्रेनिंग प्रोग्राम इज नॉट सक्सेसफुल, इज नॉट एबल टू क्रिएट ए चेंज. ऐसा नहीं होता है. It takes its own span of time. Every activity has a gestation period to get reflected in the behavior in the form of change among the participants. So that you are there to be careful. Make judgments on outcomes by considering factors such as organizational objective as well as the views of your stakeholders, as I have been repeating. Here we are ensuring the involvement of all the stakeholders. That is why SROI is so popular. In rest of the techniques, we don't involve so much of stakeholders in each and every step. In SROI, we are using that because ultimately the very success of a social enterprise, the viability or the sustainability of a social enterprise is resting on the stakeholders, not the members of the social enterprise. So that's why, as far as possible, you ensure the involvement of the stakeholders. Then the stage third is the evidencing the outcomes and give them a value. In this stage, we develop outcome indicators and we use them to ensure that the evidence on the outcome that is being generated and assess relative to the importance pertaining to the task of valuing them. That clear? Now, when we are talking about evidencing the outcomes indirectly, we would like to make ourselves double sure that there is the outcome. And it is a very difficult task because when we are talking about the beneficiaries, they may behave in a very different way. Like we all are experiencing the same, even in the academics when we are resorting to some incubation programs or some sort of training programs, and we are taking the feedbacks from the participants. For the time being, some participants are saying on a positive note, yes, so we are getting highly benefited, this, that, all these things. But practically, those are not the statement backed by any evidence. Because for the sake of saying, when we are asking them, they are saying on a positive note. When you are asking, some of the participants are saying on a negative note. But are we there to rely on those, or we are going for some background evidence? That is the question. Because the next step is valuation. If on the versions of the beneficiaries, we will take up the outcomes, it may go wrong. That clear? That we are also experiencing in our day-to-day life. So that is the reason why we have to make ourselves double sure that there lies evidence pertaining to the outcomes. It is not a mere statement made by the participants or the beneficiaries. Okay? That must get reflected in their behavior. in their actions, in their activities down the line. Then only we may say, yes, there is the evidence. It is a difficult task. I'm not saying it is easy, it is a difficult task, but we don't have any choice, because when we are going for quantification, the next and giving assigning a value using financial proxies, so we must make ourselves double sure with regard to that. And again, stakeholders are the best source to help us identify indicators. Clear? You may make use of certain parameters, you may make use of certain indicators based on your feasibility. Clear? Then the next is collect outcomes data. As I said, if I am going to say that this is this, that is that, nobody is going to believe unless I have a strong defense, I have evidence sufficing what I am claiming. And that is only possible through data. Clear? Now, you are there to collect the data on the basis of different parameters, on the basis of different indicators, clear, which you are applying or you are making use of. Now, there lies some of the differences when you are going prospective, when you are going evaluative. Clear? Now, in case of prospective, you are there to predict each and everything, because practically you are not doing anything. When you are going with prospective SROI, it is all an intellectual exercise. But when you are going evaluative, you have the availability of actual data. Clear? Ensure with regard to the qualitative attributes of those actual data. If required, refine it. Clear? Customatize it. And then go for the use of the data. If it is a forecast SROI, make use of all the possible predictive techniques, clear, which are plentifully available, and go with a prospective approach and try to foresee all those outcomes. Then assign a value. So there lies some differences with regard to the collection. Now put a value on the outcome. The purpose of valuation is to reveal the value of outcomes and show how important they are relative to other outcomes. This process is often referred to as monetization, because we assign a monetary value. Clear? Market price. Clear? So, for example, you have extended a training program on financial inclusion, and as a consequence, a particular person from underserved section of the society or underprivileged section of the society has opened a bank account and has started depositing petty money in small amounts. Clear? Instead of keeping it in his house. Now, the benefit that he is going to end up after a while, after a span of time, is very difficult to be expressed in monetary terms. Because at times of need for meeting emergency healthcare expenses of his family, if he is having that, he's getting benefited out of it. Clear? Because keeping money at residence is always prone to be spent. We are always on the verge of consuming that money which we are keeping at our house. But if you are keeping it in a bank, it gives a different dimension. Now, what I mean to say, these are the benefits which are not readily traceable in a market, so that you can find a market price. If it is not traceable in a market, it is very difficult to find a market price, because we all know that basics of economics. The market price represents a demand and supply dimension. Clear? As because it is not traceable in a market, it is very difficult to find a legitimate market price. So we are there to assign a monetary value on a subjective parameter. That is why I said earlier that we are there to make use of a financial proxy, okay, which best explains or describes the monetary value. Exactly. There are different approaches. One we say stated preference, one we say revealed preferences. There are different issues what I will be discussing later on. Fine. Now, stage 4 is establish the impact. Here we assess whether the outcomes we have, okay, and the result from the activities of the project. Okay, we estimate how much of the outcome would have happened anyway, and what proportion of the outcome can be isolated and being added by the activities of other projects. Now, here I'm going to discuss some of the very important dimensions of SROI. When we are rendering a social activity and we are expecting that it is going to necessitate a change, and it will end up in a state of transformation in the behavior, in the approach, in the attitude, in the actions of the beneficiaries. Clear? It is very difficult to isolate that the said change which are getting evident among the beneficiaries is only and only because of your activity. I repeat, is only and only because of your activity. Because there are certain changes. Changes are highly vulnerable. Okay? Now, it is required to ensure that the changes are because of your activity. Clear? And if there is any dilution, how much percentage of change is because of your effort and how much is changing in any way? So in order to understand this, clear, in SROI methodology, we are making use of these three things. One we say dead weight, the other we say displacement, and the third is attribution. Right? When we are talking about dead weight is a measure of the amount of outcomes that would have happened anyway, the activity had not taken place. Clear? That would have happened anyway. What this implies that you are executing a social activity and you are necessitating a change, okay, but without the activity, some percentage of changes are there automatically. That is otherwise termed as dead weight. It is calculated as a percentage. Okay? And as I said to you people before, that to ascertain on a quantitative platform the extent of dead weight, you are there to make use of a control group. Okay, the target group and a control group. Target group means you are rendering that social activity to them and you are measuring the changes, you are taking care of the outcomes, and then you are coming to any conclusion. Then there is a control group who have not been imparted or who are not getting access to that social activity, who are not a party. That control group may be witnessing some change. So that is automatic. So you are there to make a comparison in order to arrive at what is the proportion or the percentage of dead weight. Then displacement is another one. Displacement is another component of impact and is an assessment of how much of outcome displaced other outcomes. Clear? If displacement is relevant and it is actually displacing the outcomes, there may be another stakeholder affected by the displacement. We could go back and introduce this new stakeholder into the impact map, or we are there to adjust our outcomes with that of the displacement. Because as I said, say for example, with the outcome of a financial awareness program, some positive impacts are there. Clear? But as a consequence to financial awareness among the targeted audience, among the beneficiaries, overconfidence comes in the mindset of those beneficiaries. They have exercised control over their spending habits. That is a good outcome. But that also ended off in a state of overconfidence in them. उनको ये लगने लगा है कि अरे हमको फाइनेंशियल एजुकेशन का ट्रेनिंग मिल गया है, अभी हमको सब कुछ आता है, हम जैसे सोचते हैं सब सही है, जैसे करते हैं सब सही है. तो दैट इज a displacement. Okay, so that you are there to adjust. Now the third one is the attribution. Attribution is an assessment of how much of the outcome was caused the contribution of others or people. Okay, because you are not the only social enterprise executing social activities. Like you take the example of a village where you are facilitating healthcare social activities. Another social enterprise is facilitating education related social activities. Another social enterprise is facilitating the sanitation. See? Now, at a particular point of time, there are some sort of overlappings. Clear? Now, that is otherwise the attribution. Now, you are there to isolate how much of the outcomes, what you are claiming that it is because of your social activity, clear, is getting dictated or influenced by the activities executed by other social enterprises. That you are there to extract out, and you are there to adjust your outcomes accordingly. Otherwise, it would go wrong. So these are the three things. One more I didn't mention over here. We say the dropouts, right? Because when we are rendering social activities, we are indirectly talking about the outcomes, clear? And there is a gestation period. Now, if the whole of the benefit to be achieved is going to take, say, 12 months, clear? Then gradually the benefits, the outcomes will start to occur in month by month on a succession. Fine. Now, is it going to continue at the same rate, or that is going to diminish or decline after a span of time, or that is going to increase after a span of time? Because it can never be on a static dimension. When we are talking about the outcomes which are getting reflected in the behavior, in the actions of the beneficiaries, it is not going to be static. It is not going to be the same so far as the degree or magnitude of change is concerned. हो सकता है शुरू में बहुत ज्यादा चेंजेस आपको देखने को मिलेगा, लेकिन बाद में वो चेंजेस स्लो हो जाते हैं, कम हो जाते हैं. हो सकता है शुरू में आपको कम मिल रहा है, बाद में आपको ज्यादा मिलेगा. Clear? Particularly when you are talking about forecast SROI, when it is actual, it is a different dimension. But when we are talking about forecast SROI, which is the very purpose of my lecture, because Ajay said social enterprises are finding it difficult to avail of finance. Clear? For that, you have to pose yourself before those funding agencies that you are so and so, you are doing so and so, your project is having this much of viability, your project is going to add value to the society up to this extent, this is the social return, what you are talking about. So in that case, you are going predictive. Now, when you are going predictive, the dropouts are very critical. That you are there to adjust. Now, The next is calculation of the impact. We calculate the impact in these steps. Financial proxies multiplied by the quantities of the outcome gives a total value. Then calculation of SROI. Then repeat this each outcome to arrive at the impact. Add up the total and to arrive at the overall impact, because when you were talking about dead weights, when you were talking about displacement, when you were talking about attribution, when you were talking about drop-offs, that need to be adjusted when we are accumulating the total of impact. Sorry, my so in this case, we are talking about the adjustment with regard to these aspects. Now, calculation of SRI is essentially a financial ratio. In one hand, we are summarizing all the information pertaining to the benefits or the outcomes. On the other hand, we are taking into consideration the inputs. Fine. Now, project into the future, that is more or less with regard to the prospective SROI. Then valuation method. As I said, there are valuation cost or saving related method, change in money, change in resource availability. These are very simple because these are quantitative measures. But when you are talking about value-based methods, it is stated preference or revealed preference. Stated preference means when you are rendering a particular service and that necessitated a change that has improved the actions of a particular beneficiary, you are there to ask how much you are willing to pay for that. You are not paying, it is okay. But if you are asked a question, how much you are ready to pay for this particular service? So there are certain statements you can collect from the beneficiaries that is stated. Then revealed preferences. Revealed preferences is an indirect way of quantifying the monetary value. Like I say, if you are taking off an issue of spending on security related issues, and that is the cost of feeling safe at home. That is a revealed preference. If I am spending say on an average of 500 rupees per month towards my CCTV maintenance and towards paying to my to the common watchmen who are there in our colony, in our society, indirectly that is the cost of feeling safe at home. So that is a revealed preference. Right? So there are different methods you are there to make use of. Then the calculating of SROI ratio. And here we are there to take into consideration, as long as we are going prospective or we are going into a forecastive dimension, we are there to transform those outcomes which are related to a future span of time, those input costs which are related to a future point of time in terms of its present value by discounting them. I hope that much of basics of timeline measurement would be inculcated into SROI for the purpose of arriving at a pragmatic and practical aspect. Right? Now, examples, as I said, financial education program of migrant workers, theory of change, program participants will be able to control their finances, determine their financial and develop their financial plans. Then material stakeholders, migrant workers, clear? Theory of change talks about this. Then articulated negative outcomes. I had already told, after getting that program, some beneficiaries may develop the attitude of overconfidence, resulting in bad investment. Then valuation method. Clear? That is change in money method. Here it is quantitative platform. So you are there to make a trade-off between the favorable outcomes and the unfavorable outcomes before arriving at a pragmatic quantification of social return on investment. Then over and above, when you are going prospective, when you are going for a forecast SROI, a sensitivity analysis is a must. Because when you are going with a forecastive ideology, you are indirectly taking into consideration different conditions, different assumptions. Now, if there is a change which is initiated in any of the condition or assumption, how much of change you are noticed in your SROI. So that must be quantified on a hit and trial or iterative orientation. Then only you are there to finally posit your status, because so far as social enterprises are concerned, we are not backed by the objective of ending up with a surplus. Clear? Rather, we are backed by the objective of operating in a state of break even. Right? In a state of break even, whatever we are spending, we are self-sufficient. And if we are ending up with a surplus, that are again going to be invested in the business or going to take off a new activity for the cause of the society at large. We are not backed by the objective of maximizing the wealth of the owners or the shareholders. Okay, so the last stage is disseminating the information with regard to all those activities pertaining to your enterprise among all the stakeholders. Okay, may they be funders, may they be any organization, may they be the other competing social enterprises, whosoever they may be. What you are doing, you are there to disseminate those information, okay, to the others for their variant uses, then embed it. Okay. As a consequence to all your activities, what good outcomes, what good suggestions, what good processes are inserted or implemented, that you must carry. So that's all from my side. Now I'm inviting all the participants for having discussion and deliberation. If you're having any question with regard to SROI.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for such a knowledgeable area of interest and importance of this area in this subject. Pranjal, sir? Any question?
Madam, can you please mute your speaker? It's echoing.
Ma'am, I'm taking just few minutes. Just my laptop is running out of battery, so let me connect
Okay.
the power cord. Then I will be taking up the questions.
Participants, any question?
प्रांजल सर ये डबल वॉइस क्यों हो रही है?
मैं वही बोल रहा हूँ मैम, आपके क्या स्पीकर ऑन है?
सर आपकी भी हो रही है।
आप तो यहाँ से नहीं हो रही वो आप यहाँ से देखिए आप ऑन ही है।
I'm not able to understand.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Just wait. मैं फोन करती हूँ।
मैम कोई दूसरी आपने लॉगिन किया है क्या इस पे? गूगल जूम पे अदर participants. Participants, any other question? Sir, am I audible?
Yes, I am audible.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yes, yes.
Sir Dipali here. Thank you, sir. It was very insightful and very informative as well. Sir, actually, I just want to share with you my experience when I did this social enterprise evaluation.
Right.
So, sir, the challenge, what you said is right, because the activities which they do are really different. Some enterprises are majorly into clean energy, while some are into education, while others are into hospital and other efforts. So, sir, when we select any enterprise for a comparative study, for that matter,
Right.
so should we be very clear initially that very specific activity only to be taken up, or should we keep enterprise as a base and then do the analysis? Because फिर result बहुत vary हो जाता है.
Obviously, you see, when as a researcher or as an analyst, when you are taking off a comparative study,
Hmm.
clear? We go by the basics that you cannot compare two objects which are distinct. Rather,
Hmm.
your comparison should take into consideration objects which carry some similar features or characteristics. The same basic philosophy of comparative study applies in this domain also. When you are comparing the viability or feasibility of social enterprises,
Hmm.
clear? If you are going for a comparison of cross sectors,
Hmm.
then you will not end up with any robust conclusion. The reason being, like you are taking one social enterprise player in the field of education, and you are taking another social enterprise player in agriculture. Now you are comparing them. It
Hmm.
doesn't lead to any robust concluding remark. The reason they are being, they are different. They are only having one similarity, that both are social enterprises,
Hmm.
right? But when you are talking about a social enterprise in the field of education, and on the contrary, we are talking about a social enterprise in the field of agriculture,
Hmm.
the activities and their gestation period to deliver the benefit in the form of outcomes in case of agriculture is having a much lesser gestation period, whereas in case of education it is having a higher gestation period. Clear?
Hmm.
And when we are talking on a timeline, if an enterprise to deliver the real outcome is taking a longer span of time, obviously the input costs will pile up.
Hmm. Correct.
That clear? Now, when you are comparing, as an analyst, you must be very concerned and careful that what you are going to end up. As I said, if I am comparing two distinct objects, whatever parameter, whatever rationale I am there to use, but I cannot defend. Clear, like if you'll make a comparison of even on the issue of size. Clear, like there are certain students we are coming across in researches that they are comparing SBI with that of say Yes Bank,
Hmm.
a comparative study of the performance of banks, and they have selected two objects. One is State Bank of India and the other one is Yes Bank. They may compare by using certain parameters,
Hmm.
but is it worthy of comparison? Can you make a comparison of Yes Bank and SBI? No,
No.
क्योंकि एक हाथी है एक चीटी है.
Hmm.
Obviously you will end up with a statement that SBI is having better performance on this parameter, on that parameter. Clear? So there is a difference in the size. Similarly, when you are making a comparative analysis or when you are making a feasibility study, we must pay due attention to that as an analyst or as a researcher. That clear?
Yes, sir, got your point. So here, theory of change really worked, because in that case, I could see in my study, I mean, what that comparative things I made. So in that, theory
Right.
of change can be seen, and theory of development was also applicable. So, so it could be seen at the end that the impact is there. Of course, theory of change was there, and theory of development was also being seen in all the three case studies which I've seen.
Okay. Okay. So that you see, in case of SRY, we are stressing upon theory of change. We are
Hmm.
stressing upon the impact. Clear? We are not stressing upon the output. Because in many of the studies in this particular sector, there are many researches you will come across where they are taking in one hand the inputs and they are taking on the other hand the outputs. They are not talking about the theory of change. They are not talking about the theory of development, because there are certain enterprises who are backed by the objective that for the sake of rendering certain activities, we are into socialistic activities. What is the ultimate consequence? Whether on the practical platform they lead to any fruitful outcomes or not, they are not bothered. They have rendered a service. That's it. What is the net impact they are not talking about? Like you are raising the issue of theory of development. Clear? That is the ultimate. You are indirectly talking about the ultimate impact, ultimate outcome as a consequence to a particular social activity. That SROI is taking into consideration. Social return on investment, as I said in the beginning, is a blended orientation. Clear? When we are using SROI, it takes into consideration the social return as well as the financial return. Clear? To be viable, to be sustainable in the long run, we need finance, we need money. And that's why I said that there are many social enterprises who are initiating, and after a while they are winding up their activities. Why is this happening? Because they are having crunch of finance. They are not able to. So that is why theory of change or theory of development, whatever you say, is a must to take into consideration while we are talking about the feasibility or assessment of social enterprises. Because assessment of social enterprises, by completely getting biased towards social ethics, social activities, will also doesn't lead to a bright future. With only financial parameters, will also doesn't solve the very purpose. So you are there to make a blend of it.
Thank you, sir.
Any other question?
Hello.
Yes.
Good afternoon, sir. I am Lenin Pant from Government Polytechnic Nainital.
Yeah.
Sir, I have to ask you, means I will tell you a picture. After that, I will ask you. Sir, in case of economics of a country, we see that there are two types of investors, big investors as well as small investors. Sir, am I audible?
Yes, yes, you are audible. Yes, you are audible.
Yeah. So in case of the income of the country, we see that the role of big investors as well as small investors are important. But all the time we see that big investors are there who get easy recognition by the country. Suppose in case of the borrowing, banks always favor big investors, but small investors are there who have to look after themselves. So I have to ask you that in case of social enterprises, big social enterprises and small enterprises are going side by side. So whenever we try to evaluate the activities, is it possible to evaluate the activities of social entrepreneurs in a manner as we are there to evaluate the activities of the big social innovators or enterprises?
Mr.
Is it
Lenin,
possible?
can
Yes,
I
sir.
interrupt you?
Yes, sir.
I think he's disconnected, Mr. Dhananjay, the Professor Dhananjay. I
Oh.
cannot see in the group. So I think he's disconnected. So what I would rather recommend you, if you can write your question, so we'll forward him your question, right?
Okay. Am I visible now?
You're visible, you're audible, both things are there, but I cannot see now in the list, Mr. Sahu, Mr. Dhananjay. And Dhananjay.
Okay, sir.
Fine.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. I will write the question.
Yes. Nisha ma'am, over to you. Unmute yourself.
Yes, yes, yes. So I think he's not there, but I really thank him to take this lecture, which is really very different from other lectures, very much related to quantitative analysis of impact. And I hope that it must be very useful for those who are researching in this area. So always when you do research, generally the evaluator, they talk about what you have done in numbers. So when you want to see the numbers, you need to have some measurement. And for that, SORI is important for scholars also, and for the consultant, for the practitioners to understand how to do the impact analysis, or we call it the social impact analysis, or a social benefit with the economic benefit. So this must be very, very helpful if you go through this for understanding this deeply. Now we will break for the lunch, but Mr. Shakti Tripathi, he has joined. He has to do some set for next class, and
Sorry.
yeah, okay, yeah, thanks, sir. You have joined again.
Actually, the problem was there on the network.
Okay,
so
okay.
I'm getting again connected through my mobile. So now
Yeah.
that question you are ready to.
Yeah, so even now I was just thanking you in absence of you, because this is the area where every researcher, those who are working in the area of social entrepreneurship, or the area where the measurement is the problem.
Right.
For example, I did the social impact analysis of a detergent product. So detergents are pollutant. So you can calculate direct impact, but you cannot calculate the health impact or the problem of job loss or many indirect issues. So for this kind of assessment, the SRI is very important. Social, the revealed preference theory, which you talked about, or contingent analysis method, continuous evaluation method. So CVM, which is very important. And generally what I was sharing with them, that evaluator, when they analyze thesis or the paper, they see where is the number. So when you analyze this social impact, that is really impactful papers and study.
Definitely.
So I was just sharing the seriousness of this issue, this subject, and how important and how serious is this subject, where researchers should use this concept and this method to analyze this social impact. So maybe researcher or the participant or the consultant or advisors, those who are advising for either environmental assessment or the social assessment, or impact assessment of the shifting the bridge or and a shifting community. This is very important for all this replacement or the rehabilitation study. This is a very, very important subject for rehabilitation. So worldwide, this is very important.
That is true, because when we are talking about social enterprises and their sustainability,
yes,
unless we make ourselves viable and feasible on both the fronts, on socialistic front as well as on financial front,
yes,
and it is
yes,
very difficult to continue with those philanthropic activities.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. No one can work only in philanthropic concept. It is a one-time donation, but you cannot sustain with the philanthropic. So financially sustainable, socially equitable is an environmental aspect. All three is very important for the social enterprise, or even for every enterprise.
Right.
Yeah. So thank you, sir, for connecting and giving us time for our participant, for that's enlightening us in this area. Thanks a lot. I hope I will again connect with you and talk to you about this subject to guide our student.
You are most welcome, ma'am. I extend from my side sincere thanks for giving me this opportunity to share, because I know it is a technical area and it is not a story orientation, it requires some technical
Yes.
input.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I tried my best to make it non-technical, though it is a technical
No, sir,
orientation.
I told them that the day one is always an easy subject, introductory. You should know what we are going to do. But gradually, when you go into deep, certainly you need to understand deeply any subject.
Right, right,
Yeah.
right. So again, once again, I extend my sincere
Thank you,
thanks
sir.
to
Thank you.
you and
Thank you.
all your team for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
So, well, ma'am, are we going to have a break, right? Lunch break this?
Yeah, so
Lunch.
before lunch break, even I would like to say something, and in fact, you would add something because morning we shared something, but at that time they were not all the participants. So what we are observing that participants are registering in attendance, but many participants are not there in Zoom link, or sometimes they are in Zoom link and they are talking to someone else, and it is really, although we have written in the chat box, but please maintain discipline because when you have keep talking to others and this you are not in mute stage, so we feel that this is it is of course disturbing others, and it is also avoiding the knowledge which we are trying to share with you, and we have done really taken extra effort to arrange such a wonderful lectures, and we have invited professor from all over India, and really these are the expert from India and very rare professor